Let's get Mikey. Yeah, he hates everything.
Hello, I'm Mike Munger. I'm going to talk about why price is a signal and not a moral imperative. Now, value is not comparable across resources. Suppose that I tell you I want to make the thing that uses the fewest resources. If I make product A, it uses a pound of gold. If I make product B, it uses 2 pounds of iron. Which one of those uses the fewest resources? We're talking about pounds of resources. 2 pounds of iron is more than 1 pound of gold, but that's obviously ridiculous. What you're really talking about is the opportunity cost of the resource. Aristotle thought that money might fulfill this role, and he argued in the Nicomachean Ethics that you could fill in the gap in value with money, but that's because he thought that things had a natural price. If you recognize that prices are subjective, then money is just arbitrary. It's a convention. The real comparison should measure what economists call opportunity cost. So product A that uses a pound of gold, I'm taking gold from many other valuable uses. Product B that uses 2 pounds of iron, I'm taking iron from a few other not so valuable uses. What that means is a pound of gold is more resources or more valuable resources in terms of opportunity cost than 2 pounds of iron. So the problem that we've set ourselves is to choose the alternative that uses up the fewest resources in terms of opportunity cost. In other words, let's impose the smallest harm possible on other people and on future generations, because that's what opportunity cost does. Opportunity cost asks, what is the value of this to other people? So opportunity cost is really a measure of harm, things that you're using that other people need. So what's interesting is the lowest price is what your self-interest suggests, but it's also the lowest harm to others if price is equal to opportunity cost. So to go back to our example, if I say how much does a pound of gold costs, it's more than $100,000. If I ask how much does 2 pounds of iron cost, I can probably get that at the junkyard for a couple of dollars. So the activity that has the lower price, which in this case is the 2 pounds of iron, also tells me that that has the least harm to the society. So the beautiful thing about the concept of opportunity cost is that what's in my self-interest also benefits society. Me choosing the lower price means that I'm choosing the alternative that uses the less valuable resources in terms of harm to all my fellow citizens. Now, the best approximation then that I want to argue, the best approximation to opportunity cost is price. So the market price in a competitive market is the value of all the resources that's used in production. Let's look at the example of paper and plastic bags. If you go to the grocery store, paper and plastic bags are both extremely competitive industries. They're commodities. So at the grocery store, the checkout person says, would you like to put your groceries in paper or plastic? Which one should you choose? Now, one possibility is that you should choose the one that has the lower price, if that reflects the opportunity cost of the resource. Well, let's look. So one paper bag costs about 7 cents US. One plastic bag costs about 2 cents. Now, they're not the same size, so we want to get something like an equal volume, which means that if I use the paper bag and I need 5 paper bags, that would cost me 35 cents. If I use the plastic bags and I take 10 of them, that would cost me about 20 cents. It means that plastic bags are 15 cents cheaper than the paper bags. If price reflects opportunity cost, then the society is better off if I choose paper bags. Now, some people might object that there's a problem with this example, and I think that's fair enough. That's why I chose it. When you dispose of paper bags, presumably they just decompose. But if you dispose of plastic bags, they may do harm to the environment. So it could be argued that the fact that plastic bags are cheaper in terms of price doesn't fully reflect the impact on society. However, under most circumstances, if we just make an effort to impose taxes or have regulations, that's usually the argument for environmental regulations, we can use price in a way that actually does reflect opportunity cost. And for many products, we don't have this controversy over effects on the environment. So if, though, we're worried about market failures, especially the environment where resources are not privately owned, so the examples are the atmosphere or fish in the ocean. So you see overfishing of pelagic species that swim around like tuna because no one owns them. So let's think about an example that some of you have probably thought of quite a bit, and that's recycling. So my question is, if you have something in your hand, should you recycle it or should you throw it in the garbage? Is it a resource or is it garbage? And if you wanted to save resources, how would you know what to do? When I was living in Chile in 2012, I spent some time in a wealthy suburb named Vitacura, and they opened a new recycling facility. It was brand sparkling new, and people lined up. I don't know if you can see on the slide, but there's a line of cars. You had to wait in your car for at least 20 minutes before being able to unload your stuff at the recycling facility. And then when they had filled up the recycling containers, they lifted them up and they put them on a truck. Now I took this picture of a young woman. She has a baby on her back. She's been in her car for 20 minutes. She has a box and two 2-liter soda containers. She's been sitting in her car for 20 minutes to put one cardboard box and 2 soda containers into a bin, a recycle bin. Now, she was pretty mad. Unfortunately, there's nothing creepy about some fat gringo taking pictures of young women. So I apologized to her, but I said I thought it was an interesting example. The reason that it's interesting is that if you say we should recycle, you must think that it's better for the environment. Well, it may be that recycling some things is better for the environment, but is it worth so much that you should sit in a car using up gasoline and 20 minutes of your time? The one resource you can never get more of is time. So you're spending 20 minutes of time and quite a bit of gasoline with you and your baby just to recycle 1 cardboard box and 2 plastic containers. Well, what I think is interesting about recycle is that people think it's a moral imperative. You must recycle because it is the right thing to do. Well, for it to be the right thing to do, it has to be that you're actually benefiting the environment. So if you recycle and the effect is a net harm on the environment, you're actually doing bad, not good. There is no moral imperative to do that. I have had people tell me, you know, recycling is always cheaper no matter how much it costs. Well, someone who believes that is ignoring the value of price in determining opportunity cost. So if I care so much about the environment that I waste resources to show my devotion, the concern for the environment should require that you conserve resources, not waste them. If you waste resources by recycling, you're not accomplishing what you set out to do. Policy should encourage the alternative that uses fewer resources. Generally, prices do that. I admit there's problems, but without price, you don't know. If you substitute a moral imperative, you'll get it wrong even more often than you use prices. So although there are problems with the price mechanism, if you try to use moral imperatives instead, you will cause harm to the environment. You will choose policies that are worse than the imperfect price system that you're trying to replace.
Yeah, he hates everything.